welcome back to my channel. If you guys are new here, my name is Nicole and it's really nice to meet you. Today I'm going to be talking about all the books that I read in the month of December. I had a decently good reading month, although I didn't read all the books in my TBR. So the first books that I read were a series of unfortunate events, books 6 through 9. I've just kind of been on a quest in finishing the series of unfortunate events from beginning to end. As a child, I read up to the 9th book, but I don't really remember it, and I just kind of want to finish it because I want to watch the Netflix show, but I'd like to read it beforehand. This is just about 3 orphans who are sent to live with their distant relative, Count Olaf, and he ends up being horrible, and they end up escaping, and it's this whole adventurous cycle of just unfortunate events that keep happening to them. I rated this book series a 5-star, and I really don't have any complaints about it. I think it's a beautifully written series, and although it gets kind of redundant towards the middle of the series, there's still a lot of interesting information that you learn. The next book that I read in the month of December is Nightlights by Lorena Alvarez, and this is just a beautiful graphic novel that talks about this girl who uses drawing as an escapism. She's kind of misunderstood, and this is her life until she meets this new girl at school who's super shy and sweet, but there could be sinister secrets lurking behind this new girl's exterior. I just thought it was a really cute, fun read. I picked it up and finished it in less than 20 minutes. The artwork is absolutely stunning and unmatched. I've never seen anything like it, and I just love how vivid the colors are. If you just kind of want, you know, a quick smile on your face and want to see some beautiful artwork, this is the one for you. I just rated this a 5-star because it was really beautiful and I have no complaints overall. So the next book that I read in the month of December is Witchy by Ariel Slamet-Rees. I hope I said that right, but I'm really sorry if I didn't. This is revolving around a world where the extent of your magic is determined by the length of your hair. So people that have really long hair are super powerful, and people that have shorter hair usually cannot conjure up as much magic. But if your hair is too long, you end up being killed because you're seen as treacherous and a threat to the king and the kingdom. This is particularly about Nynaeve, whose father was killed because he had too long of hair, and she has super long hair as well, but she hides it because she doesn't have any magical abilities and she's very behind in her classes. Recruits come to hire new witches for the kingdom to join the army, and stuff hits the fan, and I don't want to give away any spoilers, but it's just super good, and honestly, it surpassed my expectations. I wasn't really expecting anything from this. To be quite honest with you, a lot of graphic novels are really fun and cutesy for me, but I don't feel as connected to them. But I felt very differently with this book. I felt like it's pretty lengthy, there's a lot of content, and it's definitely not like a quick read, and I really wanted to take it in because I was really captivated with the storytelling. I immediately afterwards looked up the author to see if a second novel was going to be released, and there's a one, so I think that a sequel is in the works. It's definitely not resolved at this point, but I just really like where the story is headed, and I just love the concept, and I'm really excited to seeing what the next book will bring. I rated this book a 5 stars. So the next book that I read is Scythe by Neil Shusterman, and if you guys have watched any of my other videos where I've talked or mentioned this book, you would know how much I love it. This is an amazing book, guys, about a dystopian society where there's no more sickness, no more death due to old age, no more really violent crimes. Everything is just peaceful. Or is it? So this book is about Citra and Rowan, who are 2 ordinary humans that are recruited to become apprentice scythes. Scythes basically carry on the work that death would carry, where they have to kill people to maintain population control. And they basically discover that the scythedom might not be as morally just as they appear to be, and that there might be some problems in society regardless of perfections of the modern age. This was an all-around 5-star read, and honestly I haven't read many dystopian novels, and I really want to change that because this book was honestly so impactful and really made me think about a lot of things, and it just made me really appreciative that I don't live in a society like this. I felt very strong emotions for the characters and was really rooting for the protagonists to succeed. In addition to that, I felt like there was a lot of great backstory that was given about some of the side characters, and there were a lot of multi-dimensional characters, which I really appreciated. This book really encompasses like humanity in general and makes you think a lot about the bigger questions, like what society would be like if there was no more sickness and no more poverty. And there's definitely a lot of really humorous parts in here. A lot of people could be like, that would totally happen, but at the same time, there's so many parts in here that was super hard to read and were really sad, and I definitely cried in a lot of places. I actually want to go back and sticky note all the parts. It just got too good that I didn't have time to sticky note all my emotions at once. This is definitely one of my favorite books of 2020, and I'm definitely going to be rereading this. My boyfriend actually read the whole book and he doesn't read, so that's saying a lot. He loved it, and we're gonna read the second book together. I don't have to tell you. Go read it. You'd be doing yourself a favor. Okay, so the next book that I read is People of the Lake by Nick Scorza, and this is actually a book I haven't really heard talked about on booktube or bookstagram or book talk, but my friend Megan, who I do a lot of buddy reads with, she actually suggested reading this book, said that it looked really interesting, and I'm really glad I picked this up. This is like a paranormal, almost like thriller book about a girl named Clara Morris, who's 16 years old, and she's kind of tired of living in the city, so she decides to spend the summer at her father's house, and her parents are divorced. She's been mourning the loss of her twin sister for a very long time, and she just wants to kind of go somewhere else and not be constantly thinking about her sister. And she discovers that her father's birthplace, where he's currently living, is a very kind of weird town where no one really likes to talk to strangers and everyone's really superstitious, and things begin happening at the lake by her house. She discovers that there could be something paranormal or more sinister going on in this town. Honestly, I definitely was not expecting all the stuff to go down that did. It was constantly keeping me engaged. I rated this book a 4-star because it was really creepy and super scary for me at times, probably more than I would feel comfortable with reading normally, but it was just so interesting and definitely a very unique concept that I haven't read about before. I really did appreciate the supernatural element. I was definitely very surprised by the ending, and there were a lot of plot twists that I really was shocked by, but I was really happy with how the ending panned out. I would definitely recommend this to anyone who likes supernatural, American Horror Story, creepy vibes, because this definitely fits it. So the next book I'm going to talk about is Winter Spell by Claire Legrand, and I rated this book a 2.5 star. It was definitely not a bad book, but it just really was so far from what I thought it was going to be about that I just felt really disappointed for most of the book, and I really did struggle to get through it. It was also so much grittier than I wanted. It was just a very gloomy book overall. I don't know, I just felt so conflicted about it the whole time. This is a retelling of The Nutcracker, but when I say retelling, it's a very loose retelling. This is basically takes place in alternate universe 1899 New York City, where Clara's father, the mayor, is a drunk because her mother was brutally murdered, and people are losing respect for him, and he is getting plotted to be assassinated by some government officials. She essentially ends up accidentally awakening this statue that ends up being Prince Nicholas from the world underground, and it's like the steampunk universe with fairies, and fairies have taken over in the underground, and it was so much information in this book, and this book is pretty hefty, okay? It's like about 500 pages, but I just didn't really like it. It was just all over the place. There was so many different things happening, and everything was just so depressing. The writing wasn't bad by any means. Like, I definitely was very confused for the first 50 pages. I just really was struggling for most of the book to get through it, and it's not the kind of book that I reminisce fondly over. It's kind of the book that I reminisce and I'm like, yeah, probably never again. I don't mean to be bashing it so much, it just really wasn't for me. So if you like the books that I tend to like, I just wouldn't recommend reading it. So the next book that I read in the month of December was The Afterlife of Holly Chase by Cynthia Hand, and I loved this book so much. 5-star read right away. If you guys like retellings of like fairy tales or classics, definitely go out and check this out. This is a modern retelling of A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, where it revolves around a girl named Holly Chase. She's basically a horrible person, very selfish, and she's visited by the ghosts of the past, present, and future, and is given the opportunity to change and become a better person. However, she doesn't heed the warnings, and she ends up dying the next day. She results in joining Project Project Scrooge, which is a company where people who suffered the same fate as she did enact the ghosts of past, present, and future to help prevent other people from having the same fate, until she meets a guy and he ends up possibly changing her world forever. It was everything that I wanted, especially in the cozy December weather. I wanted a slight holiday romance, and it was definitely that for me. I would definitely suggest going for this. It is definitely a story that is going to stick with me for a long time. The next book that I read in December is The Hazelwood by Melissa Albert, and this revolves around Alice and her mother, who are constantly on the run from bad luck, and you know, finally it seems like things are coming around. Alice's mother is married, all is going well until Alice's grandmother ends up passing away in her mysterious estate, the Hazelwood, and she's a cult favorite author of dark fairy tales that's super sought after because there's not a lot of copies of the book in the world. And anyways, Alice's mother ends up going missing, and it appears that she was stolen by these weird creatures that seem to be from the world that Alice's grandmother always wrote about. And so Alice is warned by her mother in one random message to not go by the Hazelwood, but of course she wants to save her mother and she does not heed her requests. There she discovers that maybe not is as imaginary as it originally seemed. So this book reminds me a lot of the Grimm fairy tales, in a way that it's super dark and kind of gory and gruesome, but also really interesting, and there's not always a happily ever after kind of thing. And this book really combined my love for fairy tales with a good contemporary kind of drama. There's definitely a lot of things that are going on in the book, but it's not very hard to follow along, which I really liked because sometimes I get lost if the plot is super dense. I rated this a 5-star read. I don't remember how I felt about the protagonist in general. I think I was kind of indifferent towards her, but I loved her dedication to finding her mom and just her love for her mom, because I really love my mom and I've been missing her during the pandemic because we've been separated. There were a lot of plot twists in this book and I was very shocked most of the time, but also I was very satisfied with how the book ended, and I just think the author in general has a way of bringing the book to life. I felt completely absorbed into the world. I mean, you can see I sticky noted it with all my emotions because I felt that strongly about it. Yeah, I would definitely recommend checking this out if you guys like Spiderwick Chronicles or Grimm fairy tales. Yeah. The last book that I read in the month of December is Untamed by Glennon Doyle. And I actually was doing this initially as a buddy read with my boyfriend's mom and my boyfriend's brother's girlfriend. And I had started it and really connected with the first part of the book, but then there was this one chapter, and for me, when I struggle with a chapter or two, I can usually persevere, but I was going through a lot during that time and I just kind of put the book down and wasn't feeling driven to read it. And so I really wanted to make it a thing because I really haven't DNF'd any books so far in the past year, and I just wanted to finish it out, and I ended up being really happy with it and falling back in love with it. I think that there was just some chapters that dragged a little bit for me and felt a little bit preachy, but for the most part I felt like Glennon just really reached me, and I think that she has relatable things for anybody, really. So this book is a memoir about Glennon Doyle where it talks about her finding her path and way to happiness, and I just think it was a really powerful read and really made me think about a lot of things, such as why I am the way that I am and if I've ever let conformity define me. And in a lot of ways it has. A lot of what she says has like stuck with me, and I just would recommend this book to anybody. 5-star read for me once again, and definitely go check it out. It's on Reese's book club for a reason. I know that this monthly wrap-up has been kind of sporadic. It's due to the fact that I've been recording this video over and over and over like 4 times, and so I'm using snippets of different takes that I did just because I've really been struggling this week to film this video. I've been feeling really out of it, if you guys can relate to that, and it's just been hard for me to get my thoughts out. I'm not really good at public speaking in general, so that's something I'm trying to work on for this video. I do get anxious about that. Thank you guys so much for watching. I would love to know in the comments down below if you've either read any of the books that I talked about or are planning to read any of the books that I talked about. And yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video.